The chandelier in the dining room exploded, not shattered, exploded. The sound cracked through the walls like a shotgun and sent a thin ripple through Michael's chest. He instinctively pulled Ava behind him. In the bathroom mirror, his reflection looked alien. Pupils blown wide, chest heaving, his hands clenched around the edge of the sink like he was bracing for a flood. The hallway smelled like drywall dust and ozone. Somewhere behind them, something metal hit tile, maybe the toaster, maybe a casing. Lauren's voice called from the kitchen, something between confusion and panic, but it was too late. Hannah grabbed Michael's arm and yanked. "We don't have time," she hissed. "Forget the cash, just move." Ava clung to his leg like a barnacle, but didn't cry. She was eerily still. Whatever she saw in his face must have told her this was not a drill. Michael swung her into his arms, stepped over the broken picture frames, and followed Hannah down the hallway, past the overturned coat rack, past the door Lauren had decorated with a fall wreath just 2 days ago, past everything that used to feel solid. He glanced back once. Lauren was crouched under the table, eyes wide. She wasn't hurt. She wasn't calling for them. She didn't even look surprised. That was the moment he knew. She knew. The laundry room was barely lit, just the dull yellow bulb above the dryer. Hannah kicked open the back door. Wind slapped them in the face as they crossed into the neighbor's yard, bare feet slapping against frostbitten grass. A black car, no plates, waited in the alley. "You're not going to explain?" Michael snapped. "In the car," Hannah barked. They jumped in. Hannah slammed the gas. Tires squealed. No one spoke. They were 3 blocks away before Michael finally said it. "What the hell is going on?" Hannah's hands gripped the wheel so tight her knuckles paled. "She was going to disappear. With my daughter. She had the passports. One for Ava, none for you." He stared at her like she'd started speaking Latin. "Lauren? She's not who you think she is." The silence thickened. Ava leaned into him, silent and warm, her thumb twitching like she wanted her tablet, like she didn't quite know if this was a game or not. Hannah didn't look at him. "They'll find the house empty. They'll know she didn't go through with it. They might assume she warned you, or worse, they'll think you're part of it." "Part of what?" She exhaled. "The money, the dead man who isn't dead, the ones who paid to vanish." Michael blinked once, slowly. "I was in Intel for 23 years, he said. "I've heard code. I've seen cover stories. What you're saying doesn't make sense. Lauren's never even had a passport until we went to Cancun 2 years ago. She's a goddamn PTO chair." "She was," Hannah muttered, "until she met him." "Who?" But Hannah didn't answer. And in that silence, something else started to click. The way Lauren hated digital calendars, her paranoia around credit card fraud, her obsession with privacy, her refusal to put Ava's face on social media. At the time, it felt responsible. Now, it felt strategic. "I'm telling you this now because it's not just about her anymore," Hannah said. "She planned to take Ava, without you. She's not scared of you. She's scared of someone else." The car curved onto the interstate. Somewhere behind them, fire engines howled. Not toward the house, though. Toward the other direction. Diversion? Michael's mind spun. Who are they? "The client who didn't die," Hannah said. "He came back." They drove in silence after that. Michael kept one hand around Ava, the other buried in his pocket, touching the small steel key Lauren had given him 3 months ago, just in case. She'd told him it opened a safety deposit box in town, with some papers. Now he wondered if it opened something else entirely. He turned to look at Hannah. "Why now?" "Because she's running out of road. And if you don't disappear now too, you won't be collateral damage. You'll be bait." The car hit a pothole, and Ava jerked awake. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby?" Her voice was small but certain. "I think Mommy knew they were coming." Michael didn't answer. He stared out the window and watched their old life get smaller in the rearview mirror. The school drop-offs, the Costco trips, the Friday night movie rules, all of it shrinking. So if you're listening and your hands are clean, if you think peace means you're safe, I've got one request: subscribe. More than 97% of you don't. But that tiny gesture, it keeps this team breathing. And trust me, this story only goes deeper, because the next time Michael saw his wife, she wasn't wearing her wedding ring, and that wasn't even the biggest surprise. The neighbor's sprinkler system clicked on just as they were slipping past the fence, sending arcs of cold mist across the yard like silent alarms. Michael shielded Ava with his body, her bare feet muddy and numb. Hannah barely flinched. She moved like someone who'd done this before, through shadows, around lights, timing the angles of the motion sensor at the back corner of the Miller's porch like she'd mapped it out. Maybe she had. The car waiting for them wasn't a car. It was a matte gray Suburban, windows blacked out, front grille taped over to hide any manufacturer logo. Inside, the seats were stripped, plastic floor mats, no VIN visible on the dash. It reeked faintly of bleach and old leather. Hannah pushed them in. "Buckle her, we've got maybe 7 minutes before they figure out no one's dead." "What does that mean?" Michael barked. "Just drive," she muttered to herself. And she did. The Suburban jerked onto the back road, headlights off for the first quarter mile. Ava clung to Michael's sleeve like she was trying to stay tethered to gravity. Michael tried again. "Hannah, talk." She didn't look at him. Lauren was involved with the group. They make people vanish. Not like Witsec. Not relocation. Gone, fake deaths, disappearing people who don't want to be found. Cartels? No, corporates, bankers, Russian tech men, politicians, mostly private clients, people with enemies or leverage. Michael's stomach dropped. That's absurd. She handled logistics, not the kill, the vanishing, paperwork, identities, routes. Lauren's better at aliases than you think. She has 4 passports, 3 languages. No, she doesn't. I've lived with her for 11 years. You lived with the version she wanted you to see, Hannah said coldly. You think that warm PTA queen with gluten-free cupcakes was real? That was the mask. Lauren underneath? She's operational. And when one of the dead clients resurfaced, he made contact. Michael could barely hold his thoughts still. How do you know all this? Because he contacted me too. He stared. Why you? Hannah didn't answer at first. Then, because I used to be one of them. Logistics, 3 jobs, 2 years. I got out, she didn't. Michael let that hang in the air like smoke from a slow fuse. His wife's estranged sister, the yoga-loving small-town barista who'd once lived in a trailer, had been part of a private disappearance ring? You said there's money, he said slowly. What kind of money? She kept her eyes on the road. 8-figure clients, Lauren skimmed. They trusted her. She funneled their pre-fake death funds through offshore shells, Cayman, Belize, Malta. But someone found one of the stashes. Not a bank account, something physical. Michael's fingers twitched. Define something physical. A key to a lockbox. Real documents. Real leverage. Enough to undo a few people who don't want to be undone. Where's the key now? You tell me, Hannah said, finally looking at him. She would have kept it close. Michael didn't speak. The weight in his coat pocket suddenly felt radioactive. They drove without headlights for another 15 miles, switching to side roads. At one point, they passed a local sheriff's cruiser. The officer inside didn't even look up. Ava's breathing slowed in the seat next to him. Her head tilted against his chest, exhaustion kicking in like a sedative. Michael pressed a kiss to her hair and whispered, "You're safe, I promise." But he wasn't sure if he was telling her or himself. Eventually, Hannah took an exit labeled County 42, which led to a barely marked dirt road. It forked into a long stretch of forest, the kind of place where GPS spun uselessly. The Suburban rumbled down the uneven trail until it stopped in front of a gate made from rusted iron poles and zip ties. Behind it, an abandoned ranger station, or what looked like one. You said we only had 7 minutes, Michael muttered. We did. I bought us more. How? I turned off their burner network before I picked you up. Masked the signal, used one of their own tools. That gets us maybe 6 more hours if we're lucky. Michael blinked. You did that? I'm not just someone's sister, Michael. Lauren isn't just someone's wife. He got out slowly, carrying Ava. The cold hit him like a punch. Hannah unlocked the gate with a key card from her boot, and they disappeared inside the woods. Inside the station, the lights were dim red, emergency bulbs. There was no furniture, no decor, just a cot, a chest freezer, a map spread across a cracked table, and 2 backup generators humming somewhere outside. What is this place? Michael asked. An old field site, used once, forgotten, off-grid, no ties. Michael settled Ava onto the cot, covering her with his jacket. He turned back toward Hannah. Why didn't you warn me sooner? I did, she said flatly. You just didn't know what the warning meant. Michael rubbed his face. You're saying Lauren was going to vanish. Take Ava, leave me behind. She didn't plan to leave you behind. Hannah said, pulling out a laptop from a shielded case. She planned to make sure you couldn't follow. Michael sat hard on a crate. The dots weren't just connecting, they were stabbing. His mind flashed to their anniversary trip when Lauren insisted on staying in a hotel that accepted cash only, the random days she'd be out of range due to work stuff, the way she insisted they keep life paper-light, no joint property beyond the house, no shared accounts. And now someone had come to collect. Only problem was, he wasn't the debtor, he was the bait. Whoever wanted that money wasn't going to stop. And the key in his pocket. It had just turned him into the most hunted man on someone else's map. The farmhouse smelled like wet plaster and mothballs. The wallpaper peeled like old skin, and the floor creaked in a way that felt almost performative, like it wanted you to know you weren't welcome. Michael carried Ava inside while Hannah disabled the alarm. A physical switch, not digital. They weren't taking chances. The kitchen had a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling, swaying slightly from their arrival. On the table, a dusty radio, 2 cans of beans, a .38 revolver, and a folded map of Wickham County circled in red grease pencil. No reception, no GPS, no microwave. It was like stepping back in time, and not the good kind, the kind that warned you how thin the walls of civilization really were. Michael laid Ava down on a narrow cot in what must have been a mudroom, covering her with a scratchy wool blanket. Her face relaxed the second her cheek hit the pillow. He envied her for that, the child's ability to collapse into trust. He didn't have that luxury. Back in the kitchen, Hannah handed him a glass of water, the rim cloudy. He stared at it. "How long have you known?" he asked quietly. She exhaled. 3 months. I thought she'd confess. She kept pushing it down, saying it was handled, that she was doing it to protect Ava, that it would all be over soon. What changed? She vanished for 2 days last week. Said it was a corporate retreat with her team, but her burner pinged off a tower near the old state line where there are no conferences. I knew she wasn't planning to fix this. She was planning to disappear. Michael drained the water. It tasted like copper and dust. She wouldn't, he started, but the words died. She would. That's what tore at him. Lauren was meticulous, precise, the kind of woman who color-coded her tax folders and used aliases for spam subscriptions. If she planned to disappear, it would be clean. No scraps, no trail. He looked toward the cot. Ava's tiny foot twitched beneath the blanket. His hand clenched involuntarily. What did she do, Hannah? Silence. Then, she helped someone fake deaths. For who? Insurance fraud? Cartels? For money, Hannah said bluntly. And not your average credit card scam. These were clients with enemies. Serious ones. People who needed to vanish without a trace, without an autopsy. She was one of the planners. Logistics, documents, schedules, safe zones, routes. Michael stared at her. You mean like a funeral home? I mean like hiring a team to kill you in broad daylight. Photos staged, body double burned in a controlled car crash, a widow crying on cue, new ID ready in Panama. That kind of fake death. And this is what you used to do too? He asked. I got out when the line between logistics and consequence got too thin. Lauren stayed, said it was too profitable to quit. He let the silence settle over them for a moment. Outside, the wind scratched against the siding. And one of them didn't stay dead? He asked finally. Yeah, his name's Anatoly. Russian, not a good man, but not dumb either. He played dead, collected his payout, vanished, then showed up in Singapore 3 months ago, looking for her. She handled his package. She told the others he'd been buried at sea. And now? Now he wants the file she kept, the one with everyone's names. It's leverage. And she's the only one who can access it. Michael sank into the rotting chair. So why hasn't he killed her yet? Because she's his only access point, and until last week she was supposed to give it to him. Quietly, but something spooked her. I think she changed her mind, tried to buy time, maybe even tried to run. Then why not tell me? Hannah scoffed. You think she could afford your conscience? He felt it then. Rage, cold and precise, like a knife finding bone. It wasn't about betrayal anymore. It wasn't even about the danger. It was about intent. Lauren had mapped out an entire exit route that didn't include him, left him in a burning house with a daughter she planned to extract like a piece of luggage. He was a paperweight in her life. Disposable. A convenient alibi, the man who grilled in the backyard and waved at the neighbors while she laundered millions through shell accounts and burner phones. And now she was being hunted, and they were caught in the crossfire. "Why here, pal?" he asked, eyes scanning the room. "Because no one remembers this place exists," Hannah said, "and because it's too ugly for anyone to want." She reached under the sink and pulled out a plastic lockbox. Inside, a radio set to a private channel, a pack of Polaroids, and what looked like a burner ledger. Michael picked up the Polaroids. "Those are the ones who actually died," she said, "clients who didn't make it." One of the photos stopped him cold. It was a man in his 40s, slumped in a bathtub, wrists open, eyes blank. Dated 2 years ago. But Michael recognized the shirt. He'd seen Lauren donate that exact shirt 6 months ago. His skin went cold. "She kept trophies?" he asked. "No," Hannah said. "She kept insurance." The pieces were rearranging fast now, the boxes in the attic Lauren wouldn't let him touch. The second phone charger she swore belonged to an old work phone. The weird late-night calls in Spanish, which she said were community planning meetings. It wasn't paranoia, it was protocol. Michael leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. "She married me for cover," he said aloud. "Maybe at first," Hannah said gently, "but I think she stayed because you were clean, normal. You made her feel real until it got too dangerous. Then you became a liability." He nodded slowly. The rage wasn't loud anymore. It was focused, measured. He would burn this story to the ground before he let Ava get dragged deeper. Michael stood up and reached for the CB radio. "Get me a secure line." "To who?" Hannah asked. "To someone I used to brief," he said. "I may be retired, but I'm not blind." And if Lauren wanted to vanish, she'd have to vanish through him now. Michael sat hunched over the warped plywood table in the back corner of the farmhouse, his knuckles white on the keyboard. The signal Hannah had boosted was barely enough to scrape the surface of a government database, let alone the offshore leaks archives they were combing through. But he wasn't looking for deep secrets anymore. He was looking for the cracks Lauren had tried to seal over with fake smiles and PTA bake sales. It was Hannah who spotted it first. "There," she said, tapping the screen with a bitten-down nail. "That LLC Kelmara Holdings, registered in the Caymans, owner of record, L. Whitlock, Lauren's maiden name." Michael zoomed in, cross-referenced with a tax record from 4 years ago, then a utility bill, then the license renewal from that same summer, the one she said was a nightmare at the DMV when she came home cursing the line, and the woman with the neck tattoo who didn't know how to process dual residency. That had been a cover for updating her offshore credentials. The balance on the account? Million. And climbing. Michael let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a cough. "She told me she handled event planning. She said she hated numbers, that she couldn't even do taxes without TurboTax." "She lied to all of us," Hannah muttered. They didn't speak for a moment, just sat with the weight of it. Eventually, Hannah pulled up another hit, an address not far from the state border. Storage unit, rented in cash, under a name Michael had never heard. Mira Leland. They drove there in silence. The Suburban idled 2 blocks away while Hannah scoped the perimeter. Michael kept Ava asleep in the back seat, a jacket draped over her face to block the light. Unit 187 was wedged between 2 others, its paint chipped, padlock dented. Hannah picked it clean in 30 seconds. Inside was a cube of quiet madness. Shelves lined with burner phones, all tagged by month. Bundles of euros, pounds, and francs. An unsealed Pelican case containing what looked like unregistered SIM cards and 2 different passports, both with photos of Ava. One was Canadian, the other Austrian. Neither listed Lauren as her mother. Michael stood motionless. His lungs refused to work. He picked up one of the passports and stared. The birth date was correct. The photo had been taken less than 6 months ago. Ava looked wide-eyed, uncertain, just like she did when Lauren took her for a fun photo project back in April. Michael had been out of town. "She wasn't just going to run," he said, voice cracking. "She was going to erase me from Ava's life, like it never existed." Hannah didn't say anything. She didn't have to. He stepped further in, scanning the boxes, a stash of flash drives, a safe bolted to the floor, a laptop, cold and dusted over, but intact, receipts for air travel in the names of 3 different aliases. One of them listed a date, 5 days from now. Departure city, Charleston. Destination, Belgrade. One adult, one child. Passenger names. Redacted. Michael's hands curled around the edge of the shelf so tight it groaned under his grip. He'd always suspected Lauren was hiding something, but this wasn't a secret life. It was a replacement life. He knelt beside the safe, feeling its shape. No keypad, just a keyhole. His hand went instinctively to his pocket. The small steel key Lauren gave him months ago. The one she'd said was for the safety deposit box, just in case. He fitted in. It turned. The safe clicked open, revealing a neat red folder. Inside, contracts, biometric data, scanned documents, and a prearranged custody claim filed in a different state under emergency child protection laws. She'd built a case against him, a paper trail claiming emotional neglect, instability, and verbal volatility, all dated, notarized, and backed by testimony from a neighbor Michael had never heard of. Lauren was going to vanish and make him look like the reason. He stood slowly, folder in hand, and walked out into the daylight. Ava stirred in the back seat. "Daddy, are we going home?" He crouched beside her, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "No, sweetheart. We're going somewhere safer." She blinked up at him. "Is Mommy coming?" He didn't answer. Behind him, Hannah stepped out of the unit holding a Glock and a satchel of the burner phones. "We burn it," she said. "Everything." He looked back one more time at the cold, organized evidence of his wife's exit plan, the inventory of her betrayal, the manual for disappearing with a child while turning the father into a villain. He nodded. They torched it. As the smoke curled into the sky and the unit caved inward, Michael realized something sharp and final. Lauren didn't just want freedom. She wanted to win, and Ava, his daughter, was the trophy. But now, that trophy was back in his arms, and someone would come looking for it. The headlights came slow, deliberate, no bounce, no rush, just a slow crawl down the dirt path like the vehicle knew exactly where it was going and who it was about to find. Michael killed the kitchen lantern with one twist of the wrist. The room fell into pitch silence, broken only by the soft mechanical hum of the CB radio and the faint sound of Ava's breathing from the back room. He moved without words. Ava was already asleep in the loft, Hannah's idea, the most structurally secure room in the house, sandwiched between two walls of old stone and rigged with a pressure sensor on the stairwell. Hannah, now in full black, was in the corner, crouched over the circuit panel. She didn't ask questions, just looked to him and waited for the signal. Michael stepped out onto the porch, flashlight off, breathing shallow. He crouched behind the busted porch column, his fingers grazing the cold aluminum casing of the emergency flare gun strapped to the post. Old habit. Field training never fully faded. It just slept until the adrenaline woke it. The car finally stopped about 50 feet away. High beams off, engine still running. The door opened. A man stepped out. Mid-40s, clean-shaven, angular face like it had been drawn with a ruler. His coat was Italian, shoes polished, no dust on his cuffs, no hesitation in his walk. He didn't carry a weapon, but he didn't need one. He was the kind of man who never got his hands dirty because others did it for him. "Michael," the man said calmly, eyes scanning the darkness like he could see shapes the average man couldn't. "You don't need to speak. Just listen." Michael stayed low, hidden, silent. The man continued, "I'm not here to hurt you or the girl. This is business. The account Lauren accessed, we need it. She was never meant to disappear, only to transfer. You were the loose end she didn't plan well enough for." Still silent, Michael lifted the CB handset near his mouth, whispered, "Now." Click. The farmhouse perimeter lit up like a prison break. Twin floodlights roared to life, casting white fire across the tree line. The man didn't even flinch. He just blinked once. Then bang. A warning shot from Hannah's perch cut through the dark. It hit the dirt 2 feet from the man's right shoe. Dust sprayed his coat. Still, he didn't move. He simply looked toward the window where the shot had come from and smiled faintly. "This isn't about revenge, Visadam," he said louder now, "or broken marriages. This is about the file. And the file protects all of us, including you, Michael." Michael stood slowly, finally letting himself be seen. "You tracked us." The man nodded once. "You left digital blood trails. The storage unit wasn't as clean as you thought." Michael tilted his head. "You came alone?" The man smirked. "Would I tell you if I didn't?" Michael pointed to the tree line behind him. You have less than 5 seconds to get back in your car. Or what? The man said, with clinical interest. Michael tapped the flashlight once. Behind the trees, 3 sets of low red beams flickered on. Infrared cams Hannah had placed earlier that week, each one rigged with trip sensors and smoke canisters. I'm not bluffing, Michael said. You think I don't know how to disappear a body? Your clients paid my wife to vanish. I used to train the people who make that kind of vanishing permanent. The man's smile thinned. He looked at Michael, studied him, recalculated. You were never just the quiet husband, he said finally. Michael didn't reply. He didn't need to. You won't get anything from Lauren, the man said. She only kept you because she needed the legal buffer, the appearance of normal. The account doesn't unlock without both of your biometrics. Her idea. Romantic, really. Michael felt the blood pulse in his ears. So you came here to scare me into helping you? No, the man said. I came here because if I didn't make the offer, they'd send someone less conversational. Michael stepped down off the porch just enough to meet him halfway in the blinding wash of floodlight. What offer? Give us the key, the man said. You have it, we know. You're not the target. You never were. You're just holding the access. Let us in. We'll handle her. You and the girl get a clean slate, cash included. Michael tilted his head. How much? The man smiled. 8 figures. That's what you paid her, wasn't it? Some of it. She earned her cut. Then why not just pay again? Because we don't reward mistakes, the man said, and Lauren made one. And a long silence stretched between them. Michael finally said, Tell your people to back off. They won't. Then neither will I. The man exhaled, stepped backward, brushed dirt off his coat. This is bigger than your marriage, Michael, he said, like it was a favor. This is institutional, and you're just a man with a flashlight. Michael flicked the beam off, plunging the woods back into black. I'm a man with the last move, he said. The man paused, then turned and got back in the car. The Suburban backed up the dirt road without headlights. Gone, but not for long. Inside the farmhouse, Hannah was already pulling cables from the wall, packing gear, sealing ammo tins into lead-lined boxes. They'll come back, she said. Michael nodded. Next time, with less suits. He walked over to Ava, still asleep, hand curled into a fist under her chin. He'd always believed the war was behind him. But this was the war he trained for. He just never imagined it would have his daughter at the center. Now he wasn't the bait anymore. He was the firewall. The call came at 3:11 a.m. No name, no ID. Just a vibrating pulse on the burner phone Hannah had set up, the number handed off only once, to an encrypted inbox tied to Lauren's last known signal. Michael stood alone in the woodshed behind the farmhouse, half lit by the glow of a lantern, listening to the dead air stretch between rings, like the breath before a confession. He answered on the third. Michael. Her voice still had that same sleep-laced softness, like she was lying on her side pretending the world hadn't caught fire. But the edge behind it was different now. Sharper, quieter, desperate maybe. Where's Ava? She asked. He didn't speak right away, just watched the frost spread along the inside of the glass window. Where are you? She hesitated, then lied. I'm somewhere safe. That's not an answer. You wouldn't want the answer. Michael breathed through his nose. You lied to me for a decade. You were gonna disappear. Take my daughter. Fake abuse, erase history, scrub the life we built into a ghost file, and live off offshore accounts you never earned. I didn't plan to run, she said, voice cracking. Not at first. No, you just kept every receipt labeled backup, right? Just in case the truth got inconvenient. Michael, you used me. No, she snapped. I shielded you. You think being in the dark was abuse? It was mercy. I didn't bring danger into our home. I kept it just outside the gate. He exhaled. Don't make yourself the hero. It's grotesque. There was silence on the other end, except for faint rustling, wind maybe, or a coat brushing against a mic. I want to see her, Lauren said finally. I have the documents. Everything. I'll give them to you. I just want to see Ava, make sure she's okay. Michael stared at the wall. His knuckles were red from the cold. You don't get to use her as currency anymore. A longer pause, then. You think you know everything, but you don't know why. Michael stared into the dark. Then tell me. Silence again. But this time, it felt like grief. One of them came back, she whispered. He wasn't supposed to. The one I botched. Anatoly. He didn't vanish like the rest. He waited, watched, and when he surfaced, he gave me two options. Either untrace the file, or let them trace me through Ava. Michael's grip on the phone tightened. You're saying you used Ava as a decoy? No, I kept her away from him. From all of them. But the only way to disappear for real was to go through the protocols. I never thought I'd need them. I didn't plan to use them, but after the storage breach in Antwerp, I didn't have a choice. You always had a choice, Michael said. Lauren's voice broke. I chose to keep you clean. No, he snapped. You chose to stay close to my name because you needed a shield. You chose to weaponize stability. You built a fortress with my love and then locked me outside it. She didn't deny it. Michael gave her a time and a place, neutral ground, outside Wickham County, an abandoned gas station off Route 7, shuttered since the 90s, long forgotten. No Ava, no Hannah, just him and whatever truth she had left to offer. He arrived first, armed, not with a weapon, but with the folder from the safe, scanned and printed, its edges marked with red tags and thin red thread, a lawyer's nightmare. Lauren pulled up 10 minutes late in a rental sedan, her hair tied back, cheekbones sharper than he remembered. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days, like someone running from a clock no one else could hear. She stepped out slowly, hands up. I'm not armed. I know, Michael said flatly. She walked until she was 10 feet from him. No closer. I wasn't going to take Ava from you, she said. He didn't blink. You filed an emergency custody claim in another state under an alias. I was trying to get ahead of what they'd do if they found her first. Michael held out the folder. You were protecting this. Not her, not me. This. Lauren didn't deny it, just looked down at the papers like they were the bones of someone she once buried. There's more, she said. Stuff I didn't file. A backup ledger, full names, dead drops, the original blackmail file. It's not in the safe. It's not in the storage unit. It's with someone else. Who? She didn't answer. Is that your last card? He asked. No, she whispered. You are. He stared at her, and in that moment he saw it, how she thought this might still be salvageable, that some part of him still ached enough to forgive her, that maybe, just maybe, he'd take her deal, but all he said was, your leverage ran out the night Ava stopped asking for you. Lauren's face cracked, just for a moment. Then she composed herself and reached into her coat. Michael's hand twitched near his belt, but she pulled out a flash drive and tossed it at his feet. Everything's there. Locations, passphrases, the final sequence. He didn't pick it up, just watched her turn and walk back to the car, her shoulders straight but slow. A woman who wasn't running anymore because she had nowhere left to run. Michael stared at the flash drive for a long time after she left. Then he picked it up. Not for her, for the war she dragged into his house, and the daughter who'd never understand just how close she came to vanishing with a mother who would have let the world burn just to stay in the dark. Michael held the flash drive between two fingers like it might detonate. The plastic was warm, slick with condensation from Lauren's palm, as if it had been clenched there the entire ride. He still hadn't said a word since she handed it to him. Lauren shifted her weight, watching him. You think I came here for absolution, she said. I didn't. I came for permission. Michael finally spoke, voice low and flat. You want to hand off your sins and walk away clean? I want Ava safe. He stared at her. And this is your idea of protection? A digital funeral pyre for every corpse you ever hid? It's the full ledger, she said quickly. Names, coordinates, asset trails, uncut identities, enough to make 100 governments nervous and at least 3 families disappear permanently. Why now? Because the clock ran out, and because the ones who funded the vanishings? They're cleaning house. Anyone who knows more than they should is being scrubbed. Michael looked down at the flash drive. You think I'm going to run this up the chain? I think you're the only person left who still understands the chain. He held the drive up to the light. No markings, no serials, just another black box, another lie with a payload. We don't want breadcrumbs, Lauren. We want insurance, the kind that buys breathing room. You said there's more. She hesitated then. There's a duplicate vault. It's not listed anywhere. Physical location, no digital tether. It's under Hannah's name. That's where the blackmail file lives. Michael went still. Why her name? Lauren looked away. It made sense at the time. No, he said sharply. Why her? Because no one would trace it back to me through her. We were barely speaking. She had no idea. You used your sister. I trusted her, she snapped. You weaponized her identity, he said, stepping forward. You put a target on her back without her consent, and now you want me to believe this is about Ava. She would have been safe, Lauren said. It came out soft, defeated. Michael's jaw clenched. Just like Ava, right? Like your emergency custody claim, like the notarized affidavit claiming I was emotionally unstable. That was all for safety too? Lauren said nothing. He took a slow step toward her. Is the vault booby-trapped? She nodded once. Fail-safe protocol. If the wrong code's entered, or if someone tries to brute force it, it triggers a dead switch. The files are wiped, and a release mechanism sends false copies to 2 hostile parties. Hostile. Anatoly's clients, and a former EU intelligence asset. Michael stared, hollowed out. You made it so opening the truth would get people killed. I made it so if they opened it, they'd burn with it. No, you made it so you always had a leash. Even now, this isn't protection. It's detonation. Lauren rubbed her arms. She looked cold, but Michael didn't offer his coat. I tried to dismantle it, she said, but every layer I removed just exposed 3 more. Michael sat on the hood of the old pickup behind the station, watching the fog settle along the road. She trusted you, he said quietly. Hannah, she trusted you to be broken and messy and inconsistent, but not dangerous. I was broken, Lauren whispered. You were calculated. You had escape paths buried under every life you touched. She looked at him finally, her face hollow. You think I'm evil. I think you made every choice that got us here, and now you want to trade. I'm offering you safety. No, you're offering me complicity. She stepped closer. I know how this ends without leverage, Michael. They come for me. Then they come for you. Then Ava. He met her eyes. Then maybe it's time I let them try. Her face crumpled just slightly. You're bluffing, she said. No, he replied. I'm done bargaining with ghosts. Michael turned and walked toward the station door. Lauren called out, What are you going to do? He didn't look back. Whatever it takes to end this. Not survive it, not hide from it, end it. She didn't follow. She just stood there, alone, in the creeping mist, holding on to the last move she thought she had. But the rules had changed. She wasn't the only one willing to set the board on fire now. The vault was buried beneath what used to be a veterinary clinic, long abandoned, bought under defunct LLC Hannah didn't even remember forming. She must have signed something in 2017, maybe during one of Lauren's brief reappearances in her life. A vacation, a guilt trip, a birthday party wrapped in, I just need one signature. And Hannah had given it because sisters do that, because she never thought she'd be turned into a firewall. Now, she was unlocking the vault with a code she'd never known she owned, while 2 federal agents stood behind her in Kevlar and mirrored lenses, fingers resting near their triggers, their breath fogging the air. The vault clicked open like a confession. Inside, nothing glamorous, just a battered steel lockbox, a fingerprint reader, and a nondescript terminal with a hardwired uplink. No ports, no drives, no detachable anything. Everything about it said, touch this wrong, and it erases you. Michael stood to the side, one arm across Ava's shoulders, the other gripping a binder full of chain of custody protocols. He wasn't here as a husband. He was here as the last honest man standing. Let her do it, he told the agents. She's the only one who can access it. Hannah's hands trembled only slightly as she placed her thumb against the scanner. The screen flickered. A soft chime. Access granted. The database opened like a surgical report. Names, dates, bank trails, client logs, cryptographic key exchanges, a ledger of disappearances stretching back a decade. Some of the names were already assumed dead, natural causes, car accidents, overdoses. Others were people who still gave interviews, sat on boards, ran entire departments of non-existent foreign holdings. One tab revealed the payment structures, not just deposits, but withdrawals, kickbacks, side deals, covert bribes to foreign intermediaries. And in the middle of it all, Lauren, Not under aliases, not behind proxies, just her, handwriting, signatures, biometric matches, IP logs, even voice print samples for 2 high-level authorizations. They downloaded it all under federal chain. The agents spoke in hushed codes over encrypted sat phones. A black SUV appeared 3 hours later. No sirens, no spectacle, just clearance badges and satellite uplinks. Lauren wasn't there to see it. She was 3 states away, under temporary custody, secured in a holding suite with a single glass wall and no view. Michael visited her once. She asked if he'd looked at the files. "I don't need to," he said. "I already knew the truth. I just needed the proof." She tried to negotiate, pleaded actually, full immunity in exchange for context. "They'll retaliate," she warned. "There are names in there you can't touch." "You should have thought of that," Michael said, "before you put them on paper." She stared at him. "I did it for Ava." "No," he said. "You did it for you. The files are for Ava." Lauren didn't speak again. Back at the vault site, the agency confirmed what Michael suspected. This wasn't just white-collar rot. It was geopolitical shrapnel. Several entries tagged by foreign flags, one name redacted under an internal designation, K-44C, critical asset, eyes only. A young agent reviewing the files leaned close to Michael and whispered, "This isn't just fraud. It's obstruction, espionage, maybe worse." Michael didn't reply. He didn't need to. The account tied to the Kelmara holding shell had a final balance, 11.6 million, diversified, partially laundered, stashed across 5 currencies. All of it was frozen within 6 minutes. Ava played with a deck of old Uno cards in the corner, seated on a tactical crate, humming softly to herself. She had no idea the world around her had just tilted, that the inheritance her mother tried to build with blood and disappearances had just collapsed under metadata and fingerprints. Hannah sat across from Michael, a 1,000-yard stare plastered on her face. "They'll come after us next," she said. Michael shook his head. "Not if we own the exposure." He'd already made the call, an old federal contact from his years in military analysis, not an overt agent, a gatekeeper. The kind of person who didn't make arrests but reclassified entire problems. Michael offered the full file, clean, verified. In return, he asked for one thing, immunity, for Ava and Hannah. And Lauren? No deal. A pause, then a clipped response. Done. The handoff happened in the gray, not quite legal, not quite shadow, enough oversight to ensure integrity, but not enough for a press release. Michael wasn't looking for revenge. He didn't want headlines. He wanted Lauren erased the way she'd planned to erase him, only now she wasn't vanishing into a new life. She was sinking into the one she'd made. When he got back to the farmhouse, he looked over the printed ledger one last time. His name never appeared, not once, not a single alias, not a shadow in the margin. He wasn't her partner. He was her cover, but not anymore. It happened on a Wednesday. Rain muted, gray enough that no one looked up when the unmarked car pulled alongside the back entrance of the same county courthouse where Lauren once organized a Muffins with Moms fundraiser, the same building where she'd served on 3 panels, chaired a wellness initiative, and cut the ribbon on the new community playground with a polished speech about civic strength and model families. She came out through the staff door, wrapped in a tailored black wool coat, her hair pulled into a low bun like she still believed optics could save her. 2 federal marshals flanked her, each with one hand lightly on her elbows. Not tight, not aggressive, just practiced. No cuffs were visible until they turned the corner. Then the silver glint, the subtle pause as she stepped into the rain. No flashbulbs, no shouting press, no neighbors on their porches. Just the hiss of tires over wet pavement and the barely audible click of a door being shut behind her for the last time. Michael didn't watch it live. He sat at a breakfast table 3 towns away, a mug of black coffee cooling beside a folded copy of the Register Gazette. Ava sat across from him, building an owl out of scrambled eggs and toast crusts. Hannah stood by the window, one hand holding a mug, the other resting on the sill like she was still listening for danger. The burner phone lit up once. A single message. It's done. No fanfare. No SWAT team. Just structural collapse. Michael stared at the message for a few long seconds, then deleted it. Ava didn't notice. She was focused on getting the blueberry eyes to balance. Then she asked without looking up, "Will she write me?" It was the kind of question that sat in your lungs for hours afterward, not because of the words, but because of how gently they were said. Michael set his mug down and leaned forward. She might, he said, but we don't need her story anymore. We're building our own. Ava nodded, then said something about how owls shouldn't have legs made of bacon, but this one did, and that was okay. Across the table, Hannah's breath caught, but she didn't interrupt. Later that afternoon, Michael walked the wooded perimeter around the house, not because he expected anyone to come, but because routine made space for thought. He stopped by the shed, checked the CB radio, silent, then stared at the tarp-covered pile of evidence they hadn't burned, Lauren's journals, a bag of old SIM cards, a pair of gloves with traces of powder residue, and a wedding photo where her eyes told a different story than the rest of her face. He didn't torch it. He just buried it under the old woodpile 5 feet down. No ceremony. When he came back inside, Hannah was in the kitchen, wiping down the counter with that familiar focus she used when she didn't want to talk. He let her finish, then leaned in and kissed the top of her head. She looked up. "She nearly destroyed you," she said. Michael shook his head slowly. "No, she freed me." The words landed between them like a closing file. Not a wound, a chapter. That night, Michael tucked Ava into bed. She asked for a bedtime story, but not the kind with castles or dragons. "Tell me one about when you were little," she said, "before Mom." So he did. He told her about a summer at his grandfather's lake cabin, where he learned to fish, and tried, badly, to build a raft with 3 barrels and too much rope. She laughed in the dark, then fell asleep, mid-smile. Downstairs, Michael poured one final drink. Just one. Then he placed Lauren's burner phone in the sink, filled it with water, and crushed it with the back of a hammer. Quietly, deliberately. There were still shadows out there, people who had bought silence, people who didn't want their names connected to Lauren's vault. But Michael had already made the handoff, already turned the wheel hard enough to split the car from the cliff edge. He wasn't hiding anymore. He wasn't chasing either. He was reclaiming. And that started with silence. No silence. Not the kind that covers up guilt. The kind that gives space to begin again. The mornings were slower now. Honest. They came wrapped in the smell of coffee and soil, not crisis. The kind of mornings where silence didn't feel like a warning. Michael woke before the sun most days, long before the world outside stirred, and watched the light creep through the slats of the cabin's reclaimed wood walls like it was asking permission to enter. The cabin sat on 6 acres of forgotten land, 3 towns from anything resembling suburbia, no gate, no address, just a handmade mailbox nailed to a pine, crooked and dented. There was no need for more. Ava liked the chickens best. She named them after constellations. Cassiopeia, Orion, though she still screamed every time one flapped too close to her face. Michael built her a raised coop, a small garden bed, and a swing made from a tire they'd found half buried near the fence line. She wrote poems in the dirt with sticks and read aloud to the trees as if they were an audience. At night they cooked together. Simple things. Stews, grilled cheese, fresh bread. She insisted on setting the table with mismatched forks like it was tradition. He didn't correct her. Some rituals are born from ruin. Sometimes she asked about her mother. Not angrily, not accusingly, just with the open curiosity of someone building the shape of a woman from a collage of fragments. What color was her favorite? Did she ever climb trees? Was her laugh like mine? Michael answered honestly. Always. He never softened the truth, but he never coded it in resentment either. He didn't tell Ava about the vaults or the aliases or the flash drives that could have collapsed governments. He told her about Lauren's love for jazz music, the way she made grilled peaches with sea salt in July, the way she once danced in the kitchen barefoot when Ava was a baby, not realizing Michael had been watching. She loved you, he would say, even if she didn't always know how. Ava seemed to accept that. Some afternoons, Hannah visited. She brought seeds and secondhand books and a new puppy that Ava swore she'd trained better than the last one, which promptly peed on the porch. Hannah never spoke about what happened. Neither did Michael. Not in detail. They didn't need to. Survivors learned to speak in glances. It was exactly 1 year to the day since the courthouse. Michael stood at the edge of the woods, axe in hand, stacking split logs into a neat column. Ava was inside drawing with charcoal something about galaxies and feathered wings. The radio hummed with static, the kind of low murmur that kept you tethered to the moment, nothing more. That's when he saw it, a postcard. tucked into the side of the old fence post where no one ever walked. No envelope, just paper, warped from dew, barely clinging to the wood. No return address, just a hand-drawn heart. Red ink, childish in style but deliberate. Michael stared at it. The handwriting wasn't Ava's, and no one else knew this place. He turned it over. Blank. Not a word. Not a name. Just that crooked, bleeding heart. He walked back into the house. Didn't say a word. Dropped the postcard into the fireplace and watched it catch instantly, curling in on itself with a hiss. The ink blistered. The paper blackened. And for a moment, the heart pulsed like it wanted to live again. Then it was gone. He stood there a while, then went back outside and picked up the axe. The wood didn't care who left or why. It only knew how to split. So Michael split it, stacked it, built something steady. And when Ava came outside a few minutes later, holding up her drawing like a banner of stars and paper feathers, he smiled and said, "That one's your best yet." She beamed. They didn't talk about the postcard. They didn't have to. Some people try to vanish with everything. But he'd rebuilt without her, stone by stone, word by word, one morning at a time. And that life, it was already stronger than anything she ever tried to fake.